My name is Janis. My husband Al had lung cancer. I thought that I could see him through this all by myself, but then I realized that this is not something I can do alone. So I contacted the VNA, Hospice, and I asked them for help. They immediately sent somebody out. They did the interview, they did the whole process, and it was so easy to be able to talk with them and give them the information they needed and not feel alone. I mean, I felt like even though I had my family at my side through this whole process, I had somebody that really knew what I was going through because they had seen it over and over again. They knew what was going to happen. They forewarned me. They walked me right through it. They said, this is going to happen and this is what you need to do. They made the last few months of Al's life so much easier, not only for him, but for me. They had everything down to a T what I was going to need. I never had to ask for anything because they were always 2 steps ahead of me telling me what I was going to need. Al's counselor was Stephanie. Stephanie was absolutely amazing. She was a miracle to us. She was an amazing social worker. Before Al left, she came to the house one day and she brought a package and she gave it to Al. Al opened it up and it was a red, white, and blue afghan that the volunteers had crocheted for him. Well, he was never without that blanket from then on. In July, he took it with him to Washington, D.C. It was hotter than blue blazes and he still got this blanket on his lap the whole time. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was there in 68, 69 during the Tet Offensive when it was really bad. He said, I want to go see the Vietnam Wall. I had no clue how in the world I was going to get him there. But I mentioned it to Stephanie, and Stephanie said, we can do this. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. She said, we can do this. We can get him there. We can fill this last wish. And by golly, she did. She made all kinds of arrangements. She made sure that she contacted the airlines, found out exactly what he was going to need in order to board that plane. I mean, she just went far, far above and beyond what would ever have been expected of her. She made it happen. As we were walking up to the wall, Al said, I want to stand. And Al hadn't stood alone for a long time. So his son helped him up out of his wheelchair, put his arm around him, and is actually standing at the wall next to his son. Al had his head against the wall and he was crying, and he kept one hand, he put on a name on the wall, and he didn't know whose name it was, but I noticed his finger kept tracing the letters in the wall, and he just kept touching that same name. The ironic thing is the name that he kept touching, that soldier was killed in Vietnam the very day that Al arrived in Vietnam, which was March the 8th, 1968. So that was really, it was meant to be. Al's death was very hard, and it is still very hard, but I don't know what I would have done without the hospice and their staff. Dying's hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard as it can be. The hardest part of dying is letting them go. It doesn't have to be taking care of them.